This video is to answer a common question that we get about your emergency action plan, and that is, how do we know if it's going to work?
Hi, I'm Jason Perry, founder and CEO of Trident Shield.
And I'm Lauren Perry, co-owner of Trident Shield. This video is to answer a common question that we get about your emergency action plan, and that is, how do we know if it's going to work? And that is a great question. We have a lot of clients who've written an EAP.
Or someone did 10 years ago.
I was going to say at some point, and it got put on a shelf, and they haven't taken it off that shelf in years. And so they certainly don't know whether those responsibilities that are outlined in that, those procedures that it includes, are actually functional should their organization experience an emergency. So it's really important to look at that annually and assess whether everything that you've outlined in that document is actually going to work for you during an emergency. Otherwise, you might find out in the emergency that, oops, not so much. So one of the best ways to test that is to go through a tabletop session.
Yeah, and one of the things we do before we even get to the tabletop is we are not a consulting company that just tells you what to do. We work with you. So when we go in and we design an EAP, we'll send over a rough draft, right? Because we're only going to be there for a small fraction of time. And we work with you and say, hey, this is the plan that we came up with, right? And you'll sit there and say, yeah, that's going to work. Or sometimes people say, hey, we need to tweak this because of X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And then once that, you guys make your tweaks to it, it comes back to us, and then we finalize it, and then we'll tabletop it. And what a tabletop is an escalating scenario that basically verifies and validates your EOP or EAP. It can be
or
called
exposes where something that you thought worked on paper doesn't actually work when you throw in these kind of what if scenarios to the mix.
Right. So, and without exception, tabletops are extremely well received by our clients. It really gives everyone, a chance to kind of fill the role that some people didn't even know they were supposed to be in, right? How many times have we done tabletops where someone's like, I didn't even know that was my job, right? We're like, whose job is it to, deal with the press? And everyone's like, or who's calling people's families, things like that. So again, battle testing and tabletopping your EOP is necessary to have the confidence that you're going to need.
Yeah. And so as Jason said, it's an escalating scenario. So you'll start at something that is somewhat minimal in scope, and then, talk about what would need to happen at that stage. And then you act as if that scenario was not resolved then, and that it continues to get worse. And one great scenario to run through for credit unions is something that starts as or seems to be a robbery that then escalates into an active shooter. And how do you manage that transition? Because robberies are much more common, but the way you respond is very different, either kind of on the ground and as an organization. And so you want to understand kind of how that's going to escalate.
Right. If you think about it, robbery is comply, comply, comply. Active shooter is resist, resist, resist. Right. Complete opposites. And a lot of companies don't understand that when they're dealing with someone in the financial world like credit unions, that they need to adjust to that.
Yeah,
they need to be able to train to what the standard is. How do you know the difference?
Sure. And then what do people in the headquarters location, how do they need to respond to the different kind of events? So they are very exposing scenarios. Yeah. Everyone that's gone through them has had a fantastic time. They go, wow, that was really valuable. And one thing that is very helpful to have a third-party professional come and facilitate this session for you is we come from an outside perspective. We're a neutral party, so we're not caught up in kind of any of the politics or relationships that go on within an organization. And so we can kind of just bring it to everyone straight and equal as far as what we see, where some issues are, and how we need to work through things in a way that a lot of people wouldn't be able to if they're hosting it from inside the organization.
Yeah, and we kind of do tabletops way different than everyone. The first time we sit down with one of our clients, it's in the crawl phase. It's just kind of getting everyone to figure out what their job is in that moment, right? So it's kind of a coaching session. And then as we go, they become more of a testing, thing. So again, we can't recommend them enough.
Yeah.
It just really gives you that confidence in your EAP that it's going to work.
Yes.
So you got anything else?
No, I think that wraps it up. I hope this answers your question about how do we know if our emergency action plan is going to actually work for our credit union in an emergency. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out.
And remember, together we save lives.
Like this video and subscribe to our channel for more safety and security videos to empower your organization, and learn more at tridentshield.net.